Hey, what's up guys, The Lone Top 10s here with another awesome The Lone Top 10s production made just for you. One of the many reasons that skeptics dismiss fantastic stories of the supernatural and surreal is because of the people telling those stories. Bigfoot sightings, UFO abductions, and ghostly encounters are considered the province of yokels, uneducated folks, or loonies. Consider the source is a skeptic's refrain when it comes to evaluating the veracity of incredible claims. So, there are some instances, however, of unbelievable stories told by believable people. Notable people who have made great contributions to the world and who are generally not considered, well, crazy. Credible, of course, is somewhat subjective, and several of these stories can certainly be attributed to the times or the culture in which the storytellers lived. Nevertheless, whether you consider yourself a skeptic or a believer, here's hoping that you'll enjoy this intriguing list of incredible stories told by credible people. So here are the top 10 incredible stories told by credible people. So we're going to start off with number 10 with Charles Lindbergh and the Gremlins. Now, alright. Fans of The Twilight Zone are familiar with the Gremlins, a mythological creature with a mischievous nature and an affinity for aircraft. Stories of gremlins originate with British Royal Air Force pilots who reported seeing small creatures in the cockpits or on the wings of their planes during World War I. Reports continued during World War II. Some described gremlins as benevolent and even helpful, offering guidance to help pilots avoid crashing. Now, others describe them as destructive and dangerous, drinking fuel, biting through cables, and tearing holes into the wings of the plane. Like the gremlin on The Twilight Zone, who so vexed William Shatner, and later John Lithgow. Before Shatner and Lithgow, there was world-famous aviator by the name of Charles Lindbergh, who wrote about his experience with gremlins in his book, The Spirit of St. Louis, which was written, of course, in 1953. He described them as vaguely outlined forms, transparent, moving, riding weightless with me in the plane. Lindbergh said he felt reassured, not alarmed. These phantoms speak with human voices, friendly vapor-like shapes, without substance, able to vanish or appear at will, to pass in and out through the walls of the fuselage, as though no walls were there. Their voices are literally, those voices, he literally said, were conserving and advising on my flight, discussing the problems of my navigation, reassuring me, giving me messages of importance unattainable in ordinary life. Now, while Lindbergh's story may easily be chalked up to fatigue from hours of flying, he relates the tale earnestly as a spiritual experience that led him to question the nature of his very existence. Number 9. Robert Stacey Judd and the Hermit of Lawton. Robert Stacey Judd was an architect whose best-known building was and still is the Aztec Hotel in Monrovia, California. Born and trained in England, Stacey Judd's work was influenced by the pre-Columbian architecture of Mexico and Central America. His Aztec Hotel, the Aztec Hotel began the brief but wildly popular Mayan revival in the United States during the 1920s. It should be noted that the hotel is actually mostly Mayan in style, but Stacey Judd believed that Americans were more familiar with Aztecs than with the Mayans. Alright, Stacey Judd's strange tale was recorded by the man himself in a manuscript he titled The Hermit of Lawton. While exploring the underground molten caves in the Yucatan, which is, I guess Mexico. Well, definitely is Mexico, just not exactly sure what state in Mexico it is. So Stacey Judd and his party became hopelessly lost. As they tried to retrace their steps, he wrote that they encountered an old man whom he estimated to be well over 100 years old. Alright, Stacey Judd remarked that it was inconceivable for a person to live at least 100 feet beneath the floor of the jungle, an interminable distance from the entrance to the caves, further in than any person before had penetrated. Yet this is exactly where the hermit claimed to dwell. guarded mining treasure. The kindly hermit guided Stacy Judd and his party out of the case before waving farewell and disappeared back inside. Number 8. Teddy Roosevelt and Bigfoot. Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th President of the United States of America, as well as known as a hunter. He is also well known as a hunter, I'm trying to say. He's also a lover of the outdoors, quite obvious. In a book titled The Wilderness Hunter, Roosevelt related a story told to him by a grizzled, weather-beaten old mountain hunter who went by the name Bowman. Roosevelt said that Bowman's story impressed him, and while Roosevelt expressed some skepticism, he concluded that no man can say whether Bowman's story is true or not. He also states that frontiersmen are too hard and practical, and have too little imagination to make up such stories. Here's a tale passed along by Roosevelt. Bowman and an unnamed companion were trapping beaver in a wild and lonely pass, where a solo hunter had apparently been killed and half eaten by some kind of beast the previous year. After some light exploration, Bowman and his partner returned to their camp to find that it had been visited by a bear, or so they thought. Then they noticed that the prints appeared to belong to a bipedal creature. That night, Bowman was awakened by a noise and saw the loom of a gray body in the darkness, before he scared it away with a shot from his rifle. The two men didn't separate at all the next day. When they returned to the camp that evening, they found it had been visited yet again. That night, they made a big fire and did their best taking turns to sleep. Now, around midnight, they observed the thing moaning and watching them from across a brook for nearly an hour. In the morning, the two men finally decided to leave after they had gathered all their traps. They separated one final time. Hours later, Bowman found his partner's still warm body with a broken neck and bite marks on his throat. Bowman fled immediately, leaving everything but his rifle. Number 7. Dike Slayton and the Unidentified Flying Object, or in other words, Dike Slayton and the UFO. Now, Donald Kent Slayton flew 56 combat missions in Europe and 7 of them over Japan during World War II before becoming an aeronautical engineer and eventually an astronaut. In 1975, Slayton served as the Apollo Docking Module pilot for a mission that marked both the first successful test of Universal Docking System and the first meeting in space between American astronauts and Soviet cosmonauts. For this and other contributions, Slayton earned a number of medals and honors, including the NASA Exceptional Service Medal, the NASA Outstanding Leadership Medal, and the Wright Brothers International Manned Spaceflight Award. Slayton also appears in some found footage describing an encounter that he had during a 1951 test flight, when he said first appeared to be a weather balloon. When Slayton doubled back to make a pass on it, he said the object no longer looked like a balloon, but looked like a saucer sitting on an edge. Slayton says the object then took off, climbing at about a 45-degree angle, and just accelerated and disappeared. Obviously, couldn't follow it with an old piston engine fighter, so I turned around and went home. Slayton wrote about the experience in his book, Dike. Alright, we're going to head on to number 6 with René Descartes and the 3 Visions. Now, born in 1596, René Descartes was the French mathematician, scientist, and philosopher who said, "I think, therefore I am." Though Descartes' method of using philosophy, mathematics, and logic to understand the physical world led him to some wrong conclusions. For example, that the heart moves blood through the body by heating it. He is also credited with inventing methodological skepticism and analytic geometry. He is sometimes referred to as the father of modern philosophy, for his emphasis on doubt, observation, and experimentation. So perhaps this makes it more interesting that Descartes credited 3 dreams or visions with revealing to him some of his most important ideas. While visiting Nuremberg in Germany in 1619, Descartes said he had 3 visions of flashing light and clapping thunder. He was visited by a divine spirit, he said, and emerged from the experience with the concepts of analytic geometry fully formed in his mind. Number 5. Charlie Chaplin and the Human Frog. Charlie Chaplin is widely regarded as one of the most important figures in the history of film. He was a producer, writer, director, composer, actor, and comedian, who initially shot to fame thanks to his character, the Little Tramp, though Chaplin was reported fearful about transition to talkies after years of mastering the art of patami, which is like some type of film back then. Some type of, like, a method to film it, what I'm trying to say. He continued to enjoy great success after the silent film era, cementing his status as a legend of the silver screen. In his autobiography, Chaplin told of a disturbing experience he had as a teen while touring with a theatre troupe. Now, while lodging at a miner's house in Ebbw Vale in Wales, Chaplin said his host offered to show him a human frog called Gilbert. Chaplin described Gilbert as a half-man with no legs, an oversized, blonde, fat-shaped head, a sickening white face, a sunken nose, and large mouth, and also powerful, muscular shoulders and arms crawl from underneath. He dressed out when surrounded by Chaplin's host. Though he had no legs, the man had 10 thick, stubby toes sticking out from some cut-off flannel underwear. Gilbert smiled at Chaplin with a set of yellow, widely spaced teeth before launching himself into the air by his arms. "Almost to the height of my head," Chaplin said. Chaplin's story isn't necessarily unbelievable, but it is pretty incredible, as well as creepy and sad. Even more disturbing is in the infamous X-Files episode Home that was inspired by the tale. Alright, so we're going to head on to number 4 with King George V and the Flying Dutchman. What's that, George V? Yeah. So George V, King of the United Kingdom during World War I, is remembered for his support of the middle class and his devotion to Great Britain as a whole. In 1881, King George V, then King George, and his older brother Prince Albert were on the HMS Inconstant off the coast of Australia. Their personal writings from the trip were later published, and either George or Albert wrote the following: July 11th, at 4 a.m., the Flying Dutchman crossed our bones. A strange red light as a phantom ship all aglow. In the midst of which light the masts, spars, and sails of a brig 200 yards distant stood out in strong relief as she came up on the port bow. Now, the lookout man on the forecastle reported her as close on the port bow, where also the officer of the watch from the bridge clearly saw her, as did also the quarter deck midshipman, who was sent forward at once to the forecastle, but on arriving, there were no vestige nor any sign whether of any material ship was to be seen either near or right away to the horizon, the night being clear and the sea calm. George or Albert added that, the hours later, one of the seamen who also saw the vessel fell from the fore topmast crosstrees on to the top gallant forecastle and was smashed to atoms, and then buried in the sea. Number 3, Abraham Lincoln and the Two Faces of the Mirror. Now, so you think about it, Incredible Tales by Abraham Lincoln. That incredible tale that I'm about to tell you is related in the book Recollections of Abraham Lincoln from 1847 to 1865, written by his close friend and his bodyguard, Ward Hill Lamon. According to Lamon, Lincoln confided in him about a chilling experience he had the night he was elected 16th President of the United States. Alone in his room, Lincoln glanced into a mirror and saw two versions of his own face. One reflected the full glow of health and hopeful life, and the other showing a ghostly paleness. Reportedly, when he was renominated in 1864, Lincoln recalled this experience and concluded that the ghostly face he had seen that night meant he would surely hear the fatal summons from the silent shore before the end of his second term. In Recollections, Lincoln's inability to reproduce this phenomenon in another mirror was touted as mysterious. Now that inability is held up as proof that this event was simply the result of a flawed mirror. Nonetheless, if one of Lincoln's close friends, is to be believed, the sight had a profound and haunting effect on Lincoln during the last years of his life. Number 2, Sir Edmund Hillary in the Yeti. In 1953, Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay became the first people to climb to the summit of Mount Everest, the highest mountain above sea level in the world. Of course, Hillary was an experienced climber prone to this undertaking, having scaled the highest mountain in New Zealand in 1948, which that is Mr. Hillary's home country. Now, in his book, High Adventure, Hillary wrote about his experience at over 19,000 feet high in the Himalayas in 1952, a year before his most historic climb. We were climbing quite a steep pitch when Pemba, a Sherpa, stopped and picked something off the rock. Obviously greatly excited, he showed it to Pemba, feeling somewhat curious. I asked them what it was all about. They placed in my hand a tuft of long black hairs, thick and coarse, that looks more like bristles than anything else. Yeti, Shahab, Yeti, I couldn't help being impressed by their conviction, and it did seem a strange place to find some hair. Now, Hillary began conversing with explorer George Liu about the findings, but sensing our intentions, Pemba leaned forward and his gnarled old hand snatched the tuft away and threw it far over the bluff. In fact, the experience made such an impression on Hillary that he later set out to investigate the existence of the Yeti. It must be said, however, that Hillary ultimately concluded that no such creature exists. He shared his findings in a 1961 Life magazine article, which explained away Yeti-related findings. Now, it ended by stating that it is undoubtedly in the field of mythology that the Yeti rightly belongs. Alright, we're going to head on to number 1 with William Lyon Mackenzie King and the Spirits. In case if you don't know who William Lyon Mackenzie King is, he was the Prime Minister of Canada for more than 20 years, which included much of the Great Depression and all of World War II. His leadership, though famously cautious and compromising, has been credited with creating a stronger and more independent voice in the world for Canada. Despite his reputation for being a dullard, King actually held a number of bizarre beliefs which informed his decisions. He regularly looked to dead people, tea leaves, and even the formations of a shaman cream for guidance. King kept detailed, handwritten logs of his experiences and conversations with spirits at shamans and in dreams. He wrote accounts of speaking to everyone, from his dead mother to former Prime Minister Wilfrid Laurier. So strange and voluminous were his stories that even one of his biographers, Alan Levine, wrote that it was impossible to comprehend how anyone, let alone the 60-year-old leader of a political party, could devote so much of his valuable time to scribbling this nonsense. Yet scribble it he did. Alright guys, that's pretty much about it. Hopefully you liked this video. Please, if you have any other creepy, or I should say, if you have any other incredible stories told by other incredible people that I've not talked about on this list, let me know in the comments down below. Alright, that's pretty much about it. Don't forget to subscribe to Lalone Top 10s for more videos Monday through Friday. Don't forget to like this video, and don't forget to share this video to help me out. Alright, thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Take care, everyone.